chickens, cattle, goats and sheep, or pigs? Which one should you go with? Which one should you farm? Which one would ideally suit you better? Well, in today's video, I'm going to be telling you guys my experience and lack of experience in these things. I'm also going to be telling you and weighing the two sides and telling you what I personally think is a better alternative. And also, I'm going to zero down and tell you exactly why personally I chose to concentrate mainly on the chickens, because if you do follow this YouTube channel, you'll probably understand that, I mainly concentrate on chickens, why I concentrate mainly on the chickens and not, any of the other things. And hopefully by the end of the video, you should be able, to have a bit more information to weigh the four sides and move on and, make the best decision that best suits you when it does come to farming. So stick around right through to the very end. Hi guys, welcome back to Farm Up. I'm Dr. Daniel, a retired medical doctor who is very, very passionate about farming. So if this is your very first time on the YouTube channel and you don't know about me, well, what you need to understand is that on this YouTube channel, we talk about mainly farming. And the biggest percentage of it is going to be poultry farming, because that's what I put most of my attention to. But that's not all I do. I do goat farming, a bit of cattle farming, sheep, grow some crops. And certainly brought me money, but mainly it's poultry farming. So if you want to get into any of these things, you want to get knowledge about all these things, this is the perfect place around for you. So just stick around, yeah? So as you guys might already notice, there's a lot of white stuff in the background. You're wondering what the hell this is. This is maize, yeah? I don't know if you guys can see it. Yeah, I think you can see it. The camera is not like focusing on it, but certainly you can see it, yeah? So this is maize right here, and you can see it on the entire floor. And even this side of the house, this is like just half of the house, but even this other half of the house has just maize. And this is from our most recent harvest. So we planted, maize around on the farm. This time we didn't plant too much acreage. And so after we got it out, currently it's raining. So getting a place to dry it and then, putting it out and bringing it in every day just becomes quite chaotic and difficult. So we just decided to place it inside here. This is a chicken house that we do use for brooding chickens. Yeah, so we use it for, raising chickens for when they are young before we transfer them into the final house. And currently we don't have any chickens here. So, we just spread the maize, down here and let it to dry, and it will take quite some time to dry, but it will dry out. Yeah? So it saves it from getting spoiled outside. Now the interesting bit is actually the context of the house where I'm seated right now. This is a chicken house, but before it was a chicken house, it was actually a cattle house. Yeah, it was a cow's house. The area in the distance over there, where you're seeing all the light. It's too bright, but over there is a lot of grass right now. But previously, that was a cattle shed. Yeah, so it was like a kraal. This is the area where the cattle used to sleep. So in the night, they would come and rest over here, protecting themselves from the rain and things like that. But then, this was the area where they would stay. Before, here on the farm, we had about, maybe 150 cows, yeah? So in terms of cattle, like the adults, was about 150. Most of them, closer to the dairy breed. So they were not like pure Frisian, or, a pure milk breed. I had a bit of, a local breed mixed in there to provide the resistance, but they were generally, animals that were made for milk production, yeah? And I think I'm going to start my very experience with cattle and why I decided to abandon cattle, yeah? So currently we still do have some cattle around, so maybe 15 maximum, but coming from 150, coming down to 15, and this 15 is a number that we are just growing into, yeah? It's like a 10 times hit, it's a 10 times decrease, yeah? And I'll tell you my personal experience raising cattle, especially cattle for milk in this area of mine. You see, before I used to have this experience where you go and visit a lot of people and notice that, a lot of people are just interested in raising cattle. People are very proud of the fact that they do have cattle. It's an investment because buying a cow is really, really expensive. Yeah, you put in too much money to buy a cow. So I thought it would, be something that makes a lot of money. But then later on, I noticed that first of all, you need a lot of land to raise cattle. For us over here, we have 400 acres of land, and that's not a big problem. The 400 acres of land would be enough to feed the 150 heads of cattle quite sufficiently. But even with that, I mean, sometimes the grasses will dry out. You know, we will be praying for rain to come. Water is not a problem because we do have a water source over here. But if you don't have a water source, you don't have a borehole or something like that, then water also becomes a problem for you. So you probably have to dig like valley dams and things like that. Then the cattle take in that water, then they get infected, they get worm infestations. It just becomes a problem. Yeah. So you first of all must have a lot of water. Number two, you must have a lot of land, which for us wasn't a problem. But if you don't have a lot of land, it just becomes a problem because, I mean, cattle consume a lot of grass and they need a lot of space for them to feed on that. But that was just one of the problems. Another one of the big problems that we did face right here was looking after them. Yeah, cattle are quite delicate. I mean, it's hard for you to understand until you get to the position where you're raising them. Now, there are very many systems that can be utilized for raising cattle. I mean, you can use, you know, a paddocking system. You can use zero grazing. For us over here, we were almost doing a hybrid of paddocking and free range because we had so much land around, yeah? So we would like graze them in a particular area for some time, then graze them in another area for some time, but without like proper directed paddocks in terms of like a hedge, no? But there were paddocks as of, you know, this is an isolated area. And because we would have, you know, herdsmen, we would call them herdsmen, they would restrict them to that area. And then another time they move them to another area. So I would say literally it was a bit of a hybrid, but managing them can be really complicated, really complicated, because it's easy for them to get sick. Yeah, it's easy compared to the goats and sheep, I feel like it's way easier for them to get sick. Of course, not as easy as chickens or maybe even pigs, but it's easy for them to get sick, honestly. Yeah, really easy for them to get sick. And that became a problem because what that means is that their medication is quite expensive. You utilize quite an amount of money to do, you know, their medications weekly, you know, spraying with acaricides to prevent ticks and all that kind of stuff, you know, deworming and all that kind of stuff. It becomes really expensive, honestly, quite expensive. And what that meant is that we lost quite an amount of money. But that wouldn't be a problem if the price of milk was good. Yeah, that wouldn't be a problem. The problem, though, is that with this place where I am, and generally the country that I'm in, Uganda, milk is monopolized. I wouldn't say I feel like it's the actual reality. It's monopolized by maybe 2 or 3 companies. Yeah. And now, if you're a small scale farmer who has just 2 or 3 cows, it's not a problem because you can produce milk to sell in your local area. You know, just a few people, you know, put it in jerry cans or I don't know, whatever you're using, and then take it around and sell it around. It won't be a problem. You can sell it. But if you have 150 heads of cattle, you're producing too much milk, way more than you can ever consume, way more than you can sell in your local area. You need to be selling it in huge amounts. And what comes with that, or the problem that comes with that, is that then if you don't have control over the price, the other people can manipulate the price. Yeah. So all these other companies will manipulate the price, and the price comes down so much, like really low. Remember, you have a lot of expenses, especially with the medication and things like that for the cows. Now, when the price comes really low, it just becomes a problem. It just becomes a terrible problem. And with that, it just makes it very difficult for you to survive. Remember that milk is a perishable product. It's not like eggs, for example. It's a perishable product. If you don't keep it cold, it's spoiled the next day completely. Yeah. And I mean, for us over here, we don't process it. We're not focusing on processing it. So for it to be a viable thing, then you need to invest further into, you know, adding value. You know, processing yogurt, or at least cold storage and things like that, for you to be able to, you know, to hold its value and sell it at a higher price. So that just made it difficult. So because of that, I mean, we just decided that maybe cattle is not the best option. Yeah, maybe it's not the best idea, and you know, we just got rid of the cattle. So personally, from my experience, the kind of person who can go into cattle farming is the kind of person who is, first of all, either you're in a place where the demand for milk is so high. That's number one, and you have a lot of land and you have all these things. Of course, you can have your 2 or 3 cows, but if you want to do it like on a proper commercial scale and make lots of money, 2 or 3 cows doesn't cut it. You need, like, you know, a sensible amount of cattle, yeah, or a sensible number of animals. And what that comes with is a lot of space, you know, having to have the water, and then the problem of selling the milk. So if you're going to be doing that, then you need to make sure that you can add value and you can sell it at a good price. If you can't, then it makes it really difficult for you. Now, after that, the next thing that we'll go into is the goats. Now, I'll put the goats and the sheep together because generally, for me, I raise them together. That is the first thing. And really, they are the same. There's so little differences, honestly. In fact, I'll tell you something quite interesting. In my country over here in Uganda, people who slaughter or sell goat's meat also sell mutton in disguise. Yeah, so you'll never find like a butcher where they sell mutton or sheep meat. You'll only find places that sell goat's meat, but there's like sheep everywhere. In fact, even on this farm, I do have more sheep than goats. And when I'm selling them, the people come and buy everything, but you never see where they sell them. So, I mean, they disguise the lamb as goat's meat, but I totally don't mind because I actually personally prefer lamb to goat's meat. So, right here, I raise them together. And I mean, in the comment section, I might even find a lot of people telling me not to raise them together. But every time I talk about this, I tell them to give me a reason not to raise them together because, I mean, I don't want to do it simply because it's dogma that has been passed on, yeah? I want to do it for a particular reason. So if they think it's not good to raise them together, why isn't it good to raise them together? If it doesn't make sense, then I'll follow it, yeah? Sorry, if it makes sense, then I'll follow it. If it doesn't make sense, then, well, why follow it, yeah? So I do raise them together. Now, from my experience, these first of all, don't require as much land as cattle. Yeah. So I mean, previously we've had over 800 goats and sheep on the farm. Yeah. We do sell them off. The number comes down. They grow up. We sell them off. The number comes down, like that. And even with such huge numbers, the amount of grass or the area that you do require to feed them is significantly less than what you require for just 150 heads of cattle. Yeah. So of course, I mean, goats and cattle in terms of like absolute volume, the difference is so big. I mean, one goat is so tiny compared to like a whole cow, but still it simply means that you need way less in terms of resources. That is the first thing. But the second thing, when it does come to like management, it's also much easier. Honestly, it's also much easier, whether it is medication, the treatment, the number of times that they do get ill. They get ill way less often compared to the cattle. That's from my experience. They generally need a bit less critical care compared to the cattle. And what that simply means is that management is certainly much easier. I mean, there's less risk of them dying and things like that. So that makes it cheaper to manage them. Yeah. And then when it does come to the final end product, I mean, over here in Uganda, I have visited a few farmers who do dairy goats, but it's not very common to have dairy goats here. In fact, it's very rare to even find milk from goats. Very, very, very rare. Yeah, very rare. So most of the goats that we do keep is for meat. And what that means is that you don't have this perishable product that you have to deal with and struggle to look market for and, things like that. And in the end, it just means that, goats, the product, which is the goats themselves, is easier to sell because you're going to be selling them for meat. If someone comes and they're not giving you a price that you want, you tell them to go away and give it a month or 2 months. Someone comes and they're willing to give you the price that you're okay with, well and good, yeah? So ideally the product with goats and sheep is an easier to sell product, and 100% it is something that I love. It is something that I can do, yeah? It is something that I can do. Now, we'll move on to the next thing. The next thing is the piggery. Now, this is the thing that I've personally never done, yeah? I've personally never done, and I'm only going to tell you about it from experiences I've had with people or friends or, things that I know about it in the past, yeah? First of all, I don't do piggery. I haven't done piggery because, first of all, the risk in terms of management and the fragility of pigs is literally the same with chickens. Yeah, really fragile. There's a high risk of getting disease, just like it is with getting chickens. So I feel like I don't want to double my risk. That's number one. Number two, there is a problem which is literally uncontrollable, or I would say you can't avoid it, or well, you can avoid it, but your chances of minimizing it are so low. And that's a disease called swine fever, yeah? Now, in chickens, we also have such diseases. For example, the avian flu, which, just sweeps out flocks. Luckily enough, though, in Africa and in Uganda, where I am, we haven't really had such an outbreak. I mean, for as long as I've kept chickens, I haven't heard about it, I haven't seen it come around. It happens globally. It will be quite common in Europe, in North America, and you'll also find it quite common in, like, South Africa. But over here, I haven't seen it. I certainly haven't seen it. Maybe it has something to do with the weather. Maybe it's not like common in tropical areas. I thank God for that. And that serves as a really good thing because then it's something that I have to avoid. But then the other problems or the other diseases that could almost be equivalent to swine fever are diseases like Newcastle disease, but all those do have vaccines. So Newcastle disease can sweep 99% of your flock. But those do have vaccines. On the other side, though, swine fever doesn't have treatment. There's no vaccine, there's no treatment. I mean, you're just living at the mercy of God, yeah? Of course, you can put in place all the proper biosecurity measures, but just due to the fact that there's that one thing that you can't control, that I have had has happened to so many farms, I feel like for me, the risk is too high for me to do it. Yeah, it's just too high. I would rather just put that very same money in chickens and then, you know, deal with the risk with chickens and then just expand the chickens instead of putting the money in this other thing, which is also risky. Very profitable, but very risky. And then at some particular point, the problem comes in and, you know, you're just in trouble. So that's it. I don't do pigs because, you know, the risk and things like that. I'm just not interested. I just won't be doing it. Yeah. If you're the kind of person who is willing to take that risk and, you know, things like that, you can do it. I mean, you can put in place proper biosecurity measures and things like that. But no, I just won't do it. Yeah. Now, finally, we'll move on to the chickens. Now, the chickens are what most of you guys know me for. Yeah. I've been doing chickens from 2019, and the chickens, compared to all the others, I would feel like are the highest risky ones. Yeah, because I mean, first of all, they are really small animals. They can easily get sick, and when they get sick, the disease easily transmits from one to another, and you'll just have them die really quickly. I mean, you'll just have them gone. Yeah, but in terms of profitability, they're also the most profitable from my experience. Yeah. Now, again, I've told you, I haven't dealt in pigs. I can't tell you that I know a lot about the profitability. I do know that they're quite profitable. So I can't compare them to, you know, chickens, but I do know that chickens are more profitable than goats. They're way more profitable than, you know, cattle. Maybe the goats are more profitable in terms of, you know, profit margins. But then when you consider the time that it takes for goats to grow and all that, those things, it just doesn't make sense. Yeah. Chickens, with them, you'll just have them, and in 6 months, you have them starting to produce for you each and every day. Whether you're doing, you know, layers, if you're doing broilers, maybe every 2 weeks, or even every 1 week, or every 3 weeks, you can just, you know, have different cycles, and you're just getting money coming in. Yeah. So they are such a great option for someone who wants to invest and get money really quickly. But they're also very profitable because they are risky, and you know, they do have good margins on them. Yeah. So because of that, I feel like it's worth the risk. I mean, it's worth the difficulty because they do require a lot of technical expertise. For example, compared to the cattle, to the goats and sheep, they do require way more technical expertise. But the results are worth it for me. Yeah, they also don't require too much space when it does come to raising them, like you would for cattle, goats, and sheep. You don't require too much space. I mean, in an area where you can do just a few goats, you can easily do 10,000 chickens. Yeah, and you're making it maybe $10,000 a month, maybe $8,000 a month, simply from an area where you can do just a few goats. Yeah, so then it turns out to be a thing where you don't need too much resources. You don't need, well, of course you do need resources in terms of setting up the thing. In fact, compared to all the other things, it's probably one of those things that really does require resources besides the land, because you need to build the chicken houses. They have to be in a particular way. You need equipment. You need a lot of stuff. You need the chicken feed, unlike goats and sheep or cattle that can just feed on grass if you do have the land. These ones, you need to provide for them a lot of things. But in the end, they bring you the great results that you were personally hoping for. So for that reason, I personally decided to choose, you know, chickens as my core thing. Now, besides that, I also do goats and sheep because, I mean, it doesn't cost too much. I do have the land. I can place them there. There's so little to put in. I mean, so little to have to implement with them. And I can just, you know, invest the things that I do need inside there, and they'll slowly grow. The numbers will slowly grow and slowly replicate, and I'll get to the numbers that I want. Yeah. So they are also a great alternative for me to invest in on the farm, but they just won't bring me what the chickens bring in, but they're a great alternative. So yeah, guys, that's why I personally choose poultry over the others. That's why I think it's a great alternative. And if it's what you also want to get into your thing about going into farming, I mean, I feel like this video gives you a lot of context. Yeah. Tell me what you think about it in the comment section below. And then if you finally choose that you want to do chickens, well, I've made a free class which shares with you information on how to raise and rear chickens. I mean, animal health, managing animal health, yeah, to ensure that, you know, you get great results. It's completely free. I'll leave a link to that video in the description below. Check it out. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, smash the notification bell. Catch you very soon with another video. Lots of love. Bye-bye.